on the Cambridge Ball State Cardinals Sports Network from Learfield. Welcome to This Week in Ball State Sports, a Ball State Athletics podcast, highlighting the Cardinals athletics teams and administration each week. Presented by Cambridge. Here's the voice of the Cardinals, your host, Mick Tidrow.
Hey, Ball State Cardinal fans, this is This Week in Ball State Sports Season 2. We continue on here in the middle of October. A great show lined up for you. Director of Athletics Jeff Mitchell returns to the podcast. Head coach Mike New of Ball State football back with us as well. And cross country's Carly Spletzer joins us in her senior campaign. Really cool story from Carly, bouncing back from some hurdles early in her career to now be a star competitor for the cross country squad that's doing extremely well through 3 meets right now. So we'll talk with Carly and Mike coming up. But starting off is Director of Athletics Jeff Mitchell. Jeff, this is your first time. This is your second show in 5 weeks. Is everything okay?
Mick, always a pleasure. Thank you. Yes, everything is great. I've been on the road a lot. Yes, but between travel with football and meetings that have taken me across the country. So I'm pleased to be with you today.
Let's talk about some of the stuff that you've had to be a part of. There's been some changes in intercollegiate athletics, albeit some of them smaller changes in the last couple of weeks, couple of months. But just from what you've been able to see, what are some of those changes that are impacting Ball State?
Well, Mick, there are a lot of changes that are coming down the pike. So I think that we're all watching with curiosity about what's going to happen with this house case settlement. This, of course, is the litigation that is disrupting intercollegiate athletics right now, where the NCAA is a defendant in this lawsuit. The Autonomy 4 conferences are defendants in this lawsuit, and the other FBS conferences and other conferences, non-football playing conferences, we're all considered co-conspirators in this whole deal. So there are going to be penalties in the form of a reduction in revenue that we typically receive from the league, from the NCAA, and we're working through what that means for us at Ball State, what that means for the Mid-American Conference, and we're looking at what the new landscape is going to look like from a rule standpoint that the settlement will influence but won't necessarily promulgate. So we will be bound by some things that emerge out of this settlement in terms of roster caps and the number of scholarships that are available for student athletes relative to different sports. But then the NCAA will almost assuredly adopt new rules around the sports. So there is a level of proactivity that we're trying to take, but at the same time, this requires some patience too and some thoughtful dialogue. We're engaged in some strategic thinking through the Mid-American Conference, and as a matter of fact, I'm serving on a committee. It's one representative from each member institution to talk about the future of the MAC in terms of how we're going to enter into this new period of intercollegiate athletics. I'm encouraged by what we have accomplished so far on that committee. Then, of course, we've got institutional decisions to make as well, and I'm pleased with the level of support that Ball State provides. So the biggest change, which has nothing to do with this settlement, is there's no longer a national letter of intent signing period, and the student athletes will just sign their grant and aid agreements, and it may look different depending on the sport, depending on the time of year, and we're still working through those details. So there's just a lot of changes that are coming, and it appears like it's coming all at once, Mick, but we're trying to sort through it and having good conversations with our coaches about how it may impact their respective programs, because our sports operate in different cycles from a recruiting standpoint, from certainly a competition standpoint. So we have to be nimble and flexible in how we approach this, and I think we're doing that. But we're also, as an enterprise, getting tired of the uncertainty and not knowing the rules by which to play. And so collectively we're trying to get to the end of this so that we can know what those rules are and so that we can get back to what we really want to do, which is developing leaders and winners, certainly here at Ball State, but collectively educating students and putting them in a position to be successful in the long term, although I realize that is somewhat twisted now with some of the emphasis on winning and some of these pay-for-play systems that are out there that, quite frankly, is a departure from the mission of higher education. But we're in a disruptive time, and disruption doesn't necessarily equal a negative thing, but it does signal change, and we've got to be cognizant of the fact that things are going to look different going forward.
Jeff, another change is the transfer portal changes. There's a little bit of a difference there. What can you speak about that change?
Well, the transfer portal windows are narrowing, which is a good thing. So we've been operating under a 45-day transfer portal window, and it's been shortened to 30. Football, in particular, has two windows, though there's a window after the fall season, there's a window after the spring training season, but every other sport has a 30-day window that matches up with the end of their respective seasons. And that's another disruptive element of our enterprise, and we're continuing to figure out how that impacts different sports, how that impacts particular teams on any given year, and our coaches are learning every year we go through it how that impacts their particular team. The transfer portal certainly taketh away, but it also giveth, and we're trying to build teams on a year-to-year basis that can best represent Ball State. It's more difficult than it has been from a recruiting standpoint. It impacts the rhythm and cadence of recruiting. It trickles down to the high school ranks, where heavy recruiting in high school may not be as significant now because teams are recruiting out of the portal. And what does that look like in terms of talent development or talent identification in the future? So we're navigating that too. And, I really commend our coaches for their level of tenacity and resilience that they certainly preach on a day-to-day basis to their student athletes, but they're displaying the same thing as we go through this process. So we had a head coaches meeting earlier this week, and I had a great conversation about all these things and asked a lot of questions, and some of which there were answers to, others there aren't today, but there may be in the future. And I just commend our group of coaches for the quality work that they do.
Jeff, I know this is a hard question, but is there an end date in sight for when some of this stuff will be able to be known?
There's a tentative end date with regard to the House settlement, and that's April the 7th of 2025, where Judge Wilkin will rule on the fairness of the proposed settlement. She's already preliminarily approved the ruling, but she will hold a hearing on that date and then will give her final judgment. The expectation is that it will be approved, the settlement will be approved, and all these changes that are being talked about will go into effect. And we'll start seeing what that looks like going into next academic and athletic calendar year.
Jeff Mitchell joining us here on This Week in Ball State Sports. Jeff, let's shift gears back into our Ball State programs here. Football's on the road. Everybody else is on the road too. Volleyball, field hockey, swim and dive, cross country. The list goes on and on. Golfs are away as well. Just starting off with football, big win on the road against Kent State last time out, but now an opportunity to go down to Nashville against the Vanderbilt Commodores out of the SEC.
We've never seen a win you didn't like, or at least I haven't. And so I'm pleased that we got a win, happy for our team and our coaches. But, yeah, we hit the road again to head to Nashville and play a very good Vanderbilt team. Looking forward to that challenge, playing an SEC opponent. And rare is the time in this period of the year where we don't have a home event. So in some respects, that's a good thing for our staff that have been putting in a lot of hours as we've hosted a lot of events the last few weekends. But it's kind of strange that we don't have something at home. But we will have a large contingent that's going down to Nashville to watch football. Soccer, volleyball will be on the road. They'll have their crowds as well. And encourage those of you that are listening that don't have a place to go this weekend because we're not at home, go check us out on the road. It's always fun to go watch the Cardinals play, wherever they may be.
You mentioned it: soccer, field hockey, swim and dive, football, volleyball, all on the road this week.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy to look at ballstatesports.com and the composite schedule and click through each of the dates, see road game. Okay, road game. Soccer's coming up to the end of their season already. How have you seen that team develop throughout the year?
Well, I think that it's coming down to the wire for them, just in terms of a berth in the tournament and to see how they can finish. Soccer is such a tough sport, and things can not go your way, and you can, in terms of just overall play, and then somehow or another you win, and sometimes you can dominate a game and be on the losing end. Our team is going to have to really put their foot on the gas these last 4 regular season games, and hopefully that leads into getting hot at the right time and going into a conference tournament. So I like our team. I like the way we play. We've had a couple of hiccups, but again, soccer is one of those sports where it's hard. And what we're seeing across the board is winning is difficult, regardless of the sport, regardless of the place. And at the end of the day, though, I watch our kids play, and our student athletes are they are resilient. I've referenced that, and they'll be ready to go this weekend. I have no doubt about that. And I know Josh Reif and his staff will be ready to go as well and game plan and strategize against these opponents. So looking forward to seeing them compete as always, and we hope that things go the Cardinals' way down the stretch.
Volleyball is back on the road as well. Ohio on Friday, and then Kent State on Saturday. That program looking to get back into the win column too.
Yeah, same deal. There's some matches where we're playing really well. Others, the league's tough this year, and now we're going on the road and got a chance to win some matches. And I'm continue to be inspired by Coach Kelly Miller Phillips. I shot her a text, just offering encouragement, win or lose, and almost always the response back is, "We're never going to stop." And you got to love that attitude, and that's a prevailing sentiment across our coaching staff, across our programs. So I love watching them compete. They can be a very dangerous team, and I think they will be down the stretch.
Director of Athletics Jeff Mitchell joining us here on This Week in Ball State Sports. Jeff, swim and dive also had home meet to start off the season for them October 12th. Women got the victory, men just dropped it, but good to see that program back in action too.
Yeah, it's fun to start the season. Coach Agnew, I think, was pleased with the women's performance, and he said we got some work to do on the men's side. So it's early with a long season, and it was fun that we got to host those 2 events at Llewellyn Pool, and look forward to that season continuing to develop as they get going here throughout the rest of the season, and certainly in the winter.
How about cross country, ranked 15th in the regional Great Lakes rankings this past week? They've had 3 meets, and everything's going really well for cross country right now.
Yeah, Rachel Nitschwitz, who is our new cross country coach, has injected some enthusiasm into that program, and I think the girls are responding really well. So it's been fun to see them develop over the course of the season, and we're approaching the end of that season as we get to conference championship time. So looking forward to seeing how they compete down the stretch, and pleased with the national ranking, and we'll continue to run fast. That's the key.
That is the key. It's always a big key. Carly Spletzer, who's on the cross-country team, joining us here in a few minutes on This Week in Ball State Sports, also gave high praise to Coach Nitschwitz about the development of what that cross-country program looks like. So awesome that you pointed Rachel out as well. Jeff, before we let you go here on This Week in Ball State Sports, anything you want to tell Ball State fans or give an update on?
Well, we look forward to seeing you in Worthen Arena and Schumann Stadium as we get to the basketball season approaching, and as we look ahead, Mick, to homecoming next weekend against Northern Illinois. That'll be a fun week. The weather, knock on wood, right now appears to be really great for homecoming week. I hope I haven't jinxed it, and look forward to
You probably did, because you're from, you came from Southern Miss, where it's always warm. So
That's right. But it looks good. I'm excited about it. I think we'll have a fun homecoming week. Really enjoyed homecoming a year ago and look forward to it this year as well. And I'm sure that next week, Mick, we will talk about the bed races.
Oh, we'll definitely talk about the bed races next week. Yeah, I mean, you already stole the thunder from the launching pad for next week, but we will definitely talk about that. Are you in this year? You joining? I mean, we have time to sign you up.
Let's talk next week about it.
That means yes. You heard it here first on Ball State Podcast. Jeff, appreciate your time as always. If you haven't got your tickets yet, ballstatesports.com or call 888-BSU-TICKET. Jeff, thank you so much, and we'll see you at the bed races.
It's a pleasure. Go Cards.
Fly, Cardinals, fly.
Jumps toward the end zone, barrels in, and he is in.
Every play, every touchdown, every Cardinal win is here.
Caught by Gilly, breaks one tackle, breaks a second. How come Gilly's off to the races?
The Cardinals head to SEC country to face Vanderbilt in Nashville. Join us live Saturday, October 19th. Our coverage begins at 6.
Hey, Cardinal fans, welcome back into This Week in Ball State Sports. And today we have a cross-country guest, Carly Spletzer, joining us. Carly, really appreciate your time here today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Carly, just want to open this up. How's the season been for you? What's it been like?
It's been good. We're about halfway through the season, 3 meets under our belt. I think we're off to a fairly strong start. Our most recent race was at Notre Dame, and I think we got to see some of our hard work pay off, so that was really exciting.
You talk about the hard work paying off. I think there's a lot of excitement after that Notre Dame meet. What excited you about it?
I think we really came together as a team for that race. It really showed us the potential that we have and what we can achieve going forward into the back half of our season. So that was really exciting.
You mentioned the work that's been put in. How did you and the team prepare the first couple of months leading up to that first competition?
I think Notre Dame, that's been our biggest race that we've had so far throughout the season. And so I think Coach set us up really well. We had 2 or 3 weeks of just training, no races prior to Notre Dame, and I think that was a really good training block. We did put in a lot of hard work, and yeah, it was nice to see it pay off at Notre Dame.
You mentioned the coaching staff. New coach Rachel Nischwitz has come in and helped this group. What have you seen from Coach Nischwitz that's helped this team?
Yeah, I can't say enough positive things about Coach. She's been great. She's brought so many positive aspects to this team so far in just a short amount of time of being here. I think the biggest thing is she's really brought us together as a team, which is really important. Team culture, she's really added a lot to that. And so I'm excited to see where things take us.
It just seems like her personality has helped mesh with what your team has right now already.
Yeah, we go into every practice and it's always fun. The runs are always fun. They're lighthearted. Everyone's joking around, talking throughout all the runs. And so it just makes it a lot more enjoyable because running can be repetitive and can be a lot sometimes. Running 50 to 60 mile weeks can be tiring, but it's a lot more enjoyable when you have a good group of people surrounding you.
Carly, from your personal development, how have you seen yourself improve over the last couple of years here at Ball State?
Yeah, it's definitely been challenging. There's been some hurdles I've had to go through. I've dealt with a lot of injury, especially in college. And so that's been difficult, but it's taught me a lot in the same sense. It's taught me a lot in the sense of not taking things for granted. So I really don't take any practice or race that I get to do healthy. I don't take that for granted because I know there was a part of me that at one point would have killed to be in that position.
What's that patience like for you when you've had to work through some of those hurdles?
I think it can be really difficult when you're injured and you have to cross train and you don't get to necessarily run with the team. But I think just reminding yourself of your goals, keeping those in the back of your mind, knowing what you're doing it for, what you're working for, I think that is what keeps you going every single day.
What are you working for? What are you doing this for?
Really my team. That's the biggest thing, especially right now this season. We all have goals that we want to achieve, and I really just want to put my best foot forward at every race for the team. But really just taking it one practice, 1 week, one race at a time has been huge. Not getting too far ahead of ourselves. Yeah, that's been really huge, I think.
You mentioned the team and just the bond from the coaching staff with the athletes, but from a team and player perspective, how do you see this group being bonded together and you as a leader helping make sure that that stays where it needs to be?
Yeah, we have a really senior-heavy team, and so I think there's a lot of leadership in that aspect, a lot of experience that's goes around among all of us, and so just doing what we can to help the underclassmen, but really just being role models and showing them, this is how we do things. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to work this hard. And that's what's going to get us to our goals. So just showing them that and then just being there for them in any way, shape, or form that they need help. I think that's been big.
Carly, how excited are you to have Max here in Muncie this year?
Yeah, it's really exciting, especially being a senior. I think it's really cool. To have, for a lot of people, it's their last senior year, it's their last cross country season, and so I think it's exciting to end it at our home course. It's really cool. Home advantage, I guess.
How do you feel about the home course as it stands right now?
It's good. It's pretty flat, which is nice. I think it's gonna be good. We had one race there already, so it was nice to just get a preview of it, get experience on it. But I think it's gonna be good.
Carly joining us here on This Week in Ball State Sports from the Ball State cross country team. Carly, just looking at your overall journey, we talked a little bit about it from your growth standpoint, but your journey with cross country as a whole, how did it start? What were the beginnings of this journey?
Yeah, so my dad actually ran in college as well at the University of Toledo, and so I kind of always grew up with running in my life. And so I think when I was old enough, I jumped in a road race with him, probably around the age of 9 or 10 or so. I saw some early success off of that. I was a gymnast for 9 years, and so I did that throughout my childhood, and then I did cross country once I got to middle school. So I did a year or two of cross country and gymnastics, and then ultimately decided to quit gymnastics and pursue running full time. But it's been a great decision. I had a great program through middle school and high school, great coaches that really helped develop me into the runner I am today. And so it's been great.
Carly, there's a lot of avenues I could go down with that answer that you just gave, but I think I first have to start off. Is there a rivalry between you and your dad at Toledo Ball State?
I feel like if I would have gone, Ball State and Toledo, they're not super. He's supportive in whatever decision I was going to make, and so yeah, he's been really supportive throughout my whole running career. But I wouldn't say too much of a rivalry, but he's definitely a big supporter. So he's at all my races.
That's funny. My sister did an internship at the University of Toledo, so I had to throw that out there. I always like to give her a little bit of grief. Carly, you talk about gymnastics as well. How do you think that being a multi-sport athlete growing up helped prepare you for cross country?
Yeah, gymnastics is a tough sport, especially, physically and mentally, but I think it really shaped me into the athlete I am today. Mentally, I'm just a lot tougher because of gymnastics. So I think that helps because obviously you need to have some mental toughness when it comes to running. Running's not an easy sport, and so gymnastics definitely helped play a role in that.
What have been some of your favorite memories here at Ball State?
I would say the relationships I've built on and off the team. I think, especially on the team side of things, it's brought lifelong friendships. And so that's been really great, getting to run with your friends every day. That makes it a lot more enjoyable. So I think that's one of the best things that I've gained from Ball State.
Kind of want to tie something else you said earlier about working through the hurdles and the injuries and stuff, but how gratifying has it been this year to be able to be at your top shape and performance, to be able to have the season you're having?
Yeah, I really give a lot of credit to Coach on that one because I'm running my highest mileage I've ever run right now, and I feel the greatest I've felt ever since being in college. And so it's just really nice to be able to put in the work, but also feel good while doing so.
What's your best longest distance?
So I started running the 10K this past spring. It's my first season running the 10K. I really liked it. I ran 35:50, I believe. So lots to build on. Definitely not my best, but I think when I'm healthy and have some solid training under my belt, I think I can grow a lot in that area.
Carly, what motivates you the most?
Probably just to be the best that I can be. There's nothing better than running a race and getting a PR or seeing the hard work pay off. And so I think that's what drives me every day, is just to be the best that I can be.
What are some hobbies?
Really just hanging out with my friends, hanging out with people outside of, running. I think that makes it fun. I think one of the things I learned from my injuries is that running isn't everything. And so really just finding things outside of running that make you happy, I think that plays a big part in it. You're not going to perform your best when you're not happy outside of running. And so I think doing things that make you happy outside of it is a big part in success.
Favorite spot on campus outside of the cross-country course?
North Quad is really pretty in the fall. I mean, I'm not there that often, but it's pretty.
What's your major and why'd you choose it?
So I'm in speech language pathology. Originally, I wanted to be in education, but I also had an interest in the medical field. And so this is kind of like a combination of both. And I really like the flexibility that it has. You can work in several different settings. You can be in a hospital, you could be in a school, private practice, really whatever you want to be in. So I really like that part of it. It's been really good so far.
Do you have kind of a mapped out plan of what you want to do after graduation?
Yeah, so I'll be going into grad school. So I'll have a 2-year master's program that I'll be partaking in. And then, from there I'll be a speech pathologist. And right now I want to work in a pediatric outpatient. So we'll see if that changes, but that's my goal right now.
Was there a genuine interest of this before you got to college, or was this something you started to figure out as you went through?
I'd say I figured it out in high school. I try to kind of have a plan going into college, figuring out what I wanted to be going into. I would say I figured it out in high school.
Well, Carly, before I let you go here on This Week in Ball State Sports, anything else you want Ball State fans to know about who you are, family, anything like that, team-related, can be anything that jumps out to your mind?
Our team, both cross-country and track, I think we have a lot of potential this year. And so just seeing what we're going to be able to achieve this year is going to be really exciting.
I do have one more. Now that you said track, seeing the new track go in and see the improvement made around the program, what does that speak to the program right now?
Yeah, it's really exciting. I mean, it's definitely going to give us something to look forward to going into the spring, having a new track to run on. We were just out there today. It's looking good. So I'm excited. To run on it.
It looks like it's almost done, right?
Yeah, I think it should be done pretty soon. So hopefully going into indoor and outdoor, we'll have a new track.
Well, Carly, we really appreciate you joining us here on the podcast this week, and best of luck the rest of the year.
Thank you so much for having me.
Fly, Cardinals, fly.
Jumps toward the end zone, barrels in, and he is in.
Every play, every touchdown, every Cardinal win is here.
Caught by Gilly, breaks one tackle, breaks a second. Now come Gilly's off to the races.
The Cardinals head to SEC country to face Vanderbilt in Nashville. Join us live Saturday, October 19th. Our coverage begins at 6.
Hey, Cardinal fans, welcome back inside This Week in Ball State Sports, and with head coach Mike New of Ball State football coming off a 37-35 victory on the road against Kent State. Coach, appreciate you joining us, and congratulations on a road dub. They're never easy.
Yeah, no question. Appreciate you having me, and always good to be here, especially after a win.
So, Mike, let's talk about that road victory. It was a 2-point game. Ball State had the lead the entire way. I want to go back to the very beginning of the game. That first drive from Kent State, Will Yates, first career interception, and then the offense marches down in 5 plays and scores. How crucial was that to start the tone that well?
Obviously, anytime you can start the game that way, that's the way you want to get a game started. Having a turnover there on your first drive, taking it in for a touchdown. So, obviously a great job by Will. In his first college start, sometimes the ones that are thrown to you are the toughest ones, and so it was a great job by him. And again, by our guys offensively going out there and finishing it with a touchdown.
What gave you the confidence to start Will and McClain there on the other side as true freshmen on DBs?
I think both those guys have really just done a good job. Even way back in camp, they're competitive. Their competitiveness showed up early on in training camp. Both those guys, for young players, I've been fortunate to see some young corners play here over the years. You think about the A.J. Uzo-Dinmas of the world, the Antonio Phillips of the world. You think about the Nick Joneses of the world. I mean, to me, those two young guys possess a lot of similar qualities as those guys do. And just felt like, through what they'd done on the practice field, that they had certainly earned that opportunity. Eric had been slowed down by, he had an injury right before the first game of the season. So, he was working his way back from that. But, I think it was, those two guys did a lot of good things the other day that really you can start to build on, and really big confidence boost for those guys.
And you put him up against some competition where Krishan McCray is one of the best in all of college football right now at the wide receiver position. That's confidence from your staff to say that they can go up against him.
Yeah, I think it just comes back to those guys are unfazed by – they're just competitors. And then you see that on the practice field. And, I had all the confidence in the world that, just the same things those guys were doing in practice would show up in the game. And, again, to those guys' credit, man, they went out there, they handled the situation extremely well, did a lot of really, really good things. And certainly some, freshman mistakes that are going to happen, and the most important thing is learning from those.
Hey, now you have tape on those guys to be able to go back and look at, especially from guarding McCray and Floria. Mike, the defense piled up 7 sacks. What did you see from that unit to be able to get to the pass rush?
Yeah, our front seven played a really good football game, man. I was really proud of that. First of all, it started with they did a great job against the run, held them to 2.2 average on the run, which obviously is something that we've been working hard on our end to get better at. Guys did a good job of being gap sound the other day. But then that allowed our guys, man, some opportunities. When we got the lead the way that we did, it allowed our guys an opportunity to pin their ears back, go put some pressure on the quarterbacks to end up with 7 sacks, which was awesome, and several guys were involved in that. So that was great. I was really, at the end of the day on Sunday after we came back in and had a team meeting, my message really was, just how good of a job the guys did in the trenches, not only defensively, that front seven, but also the offensive line, and really just getting it done in the trenches.
Seemed like that sack to end the first half was pretty big, too, because Kent State had the ball, last chance to go down and possibly get points before the half, but then Conley grabs him by the legs, and the rest is history. It felt like that was one of the bigger sacks of the game.
It was, no question about it, because I was disappointed in myself because I burned a timeout. Obviously, we were trying to get the third down play that we wanted to get and then still allow ourselves enough time that, hey, we weren't putting ourselves in a field goal only situation. We wanted to try to, still preserve some time to go score a touchdown. So a little bit frustrated with myself right there because I left too much time on the clock for them. Knowing that we wanted to have the last possession of the first half, the first one of the second half. So it was an awesome job by our defense. And again, there were some great team football moments that took place throughout that game. And that was one of those, like, hey, our defense did an awesome job because they ran that play. And then, obviously they decided to let it go to the half after that.
I feel like we're going to talk about Sam Feeney every single week on this podcast, Mike, but another sack for him just outside the edge. His speed is just so quick. His development's been very rapid, but the speed's always been there.
Yeah, it really has, and again, Sam, going back to the practice field, he made a good early impression in training camp, and he's just built on that every day. Coach Conley's done a great job with him, and, he did a great job, too, of forcing the fumble right there. Now the next goal would be for us to get on top of that fumble and take advantage of another turnover opportunity there. But, Sam, he does a lot of good things week in, week out. And, for a young player, man, he's really done a great job of coming on the scene and showing a lot of good things here through one half of the season.
How many true freshmen can you point back to in memory that you have can be the guy that's running down and getting punts down at the 1 yard line or forcing fumbles from a linebacker position as a freshman? Like there's a lot of athleticism that goes into being able to do those two positions.
No question. Sam has a very unique skill set that way. You mentioned it. Here he is coming off the edge as a pass rusher, extremely productive, very deceptive that way. But then also one of the first guys down on kickoff coverage, running down as a gunner on punt. Very unique skill set that way, but it all goes back to his speed. He was a guy 10.6, 700 in high school, which is extremely fast. And that showed up, from the day he arrived here on campus. And one thing that Sam put out there early on is this is what you're going to be able to get from me from a speed standpoint. And he shows up with that, week in, week out.
Hey, Coach Meitner joining us on This Week in Ball State Sports Weekly podcast, talking some Ball State football. Coach, to wrap up the conversation about the Kent State performance from an offensive standpoint, there were some drives where it was just methodical. Like it was nothing that went big explosive here or there, but it was just play after play. It was just eating up yards. What did you see from the offense?
Yeah, no, that was positive. And again, I think it all started with one of our best performances this year, running the football. And several guys were involved in that. Obviously, Braden Sloan, continues to do a very good job, but it was great to see, Vaughn get in on the action, Charlie Spiegel get on the action. Caden had a couple of nice runs there. So, again, it goes back to the guys in the trenches. It all starts with that. We did a lot of positive things, had a couple of lulls there, if you will, where we didn't really make a play in the passing game. But it was a great response coming out after halftime there and taking that first drive of the second half right down the field to give ourselves, a big lead there. Now it's, we got to make sure that, when we keep that going, man, we got to keep that momentum going and play 60 minutes of ball and continue to execute at a high level. So a lot of positives that way. Most importantly, the guys in the trenches did such a good job playing physical, really doing a great job of establishing the run and really being consistent with that throughout the entire game.
Vaughn's been banged up a little bit this year. Had to be good to see him, perform the way he did.
It was, and again, Vaughn's, he's one of those guys that, he's had a couple injuries during his time here, and he's done a great job of staying positive. And, it was good to see him with a lot of productive runs the other day and the snaps that he got. And certainly for him, from a confidence standpoint as well, because, naturally when you go through a few injuries that way, you're why me, or you get a little bit down on yourself. But it was great to see his confidence and to see him have some big runs at some key moments.
Okay, there's one more thing I wanted to ask you about at Kent State, actually. I said the other one was the last one, but we were talking about it right before. The most clutch play of the game was in the rain, and it was a special teams play. Jackson Corville making the kick to go up 9. What did you see from that perspective? And you had a fun comment from one of your players.
Yeah, listen, that was a big kick in that game. And obviously for us to go up, to get to the 30-21 there. So for those guys to go out there, it was heavy. It got to a point there in the fourth quarter, it was raining pretty heavy down there. So naturally, that's your first concern when they go out there on the field is, the snap, the hold, the kick, just that operation. And, obviously he was communicating with Tucker there when he came off the field. He said that's the wettest football that I've ever snapped. And so for him to do that, for Brian to get the snap down and then Jackson to bang it right down the middle was awesome. That to me was one of the key plays, if not the key play of the game, especially during those situations, during those conditions. And, those guys ran out there and executed that flawlessly. And so, they were all recognized for that in the team meeting room in terms of, scout team player of the special teams player of the week. Then also, both Brian and Tucker, getting attaboys just because of the, big part of that operation.
And then Jackson just nailing every field goal he took, too, is good to see after he missed a couple weeks.
Yeah, no question. Obviously, it was good to see him come back out there and kicking the ball with confidence right now. The ball's coming off his foot. When you hear that thing coming off his foot, you're like, okay, yeah, he's back to feeling well. And good to see for him. And he, again, he delivered some huge kicks the other day in that game. And obviously, he's already a confident young man. But that certainly helped in those situations, especially in some of those key moments.
Head Coach Mike New joining us on This Week in Ball State Sports. The Cardinals are on the road back again to Nashville, Tennessee, this time to take on the Vanderbilt Commodores. Coach, Vanderbilt's been one of the stories of college football the last few weeks. What have you seen from them?
Yeah, obviously they have. They've been the story of college football here. They've had 2 huge wins the last 2 weeks against Kentucky and Alabama. And to me, when you start to dig into it and you start to look at the statistics, there's some eye-popping statistics there. First and foremost, they're +6 in turnover margin. They do a great job of taking care of the football. Obviously, possessions are at a premium when you play the style of offense that they're playing right now. Both teams the other night, Kentucky and Vanderbilt, had 8 possessions each. And listen, that was the first interception that Diego has thrown on the season, and really it was a linebacker that made an incredible play, tipped the ball to himself. They're great on conversion downs. Third down, they're over 50% on third down, 75% there on fourth down, 32.5 minutes in terms of time of possession. So they really are playing good team football right now, really limiting the mistakes and putting themselves in a position to win. They win it overtime, on the road at Missouri, which certainly is a top 10 team in the country right now. So it's a great opportunity for our guys. So obviously, we're continuing to work on us, things that we need to get improved. But this is a great opportunity going to Vanderbilt. Happy for Coach Lee and what he's done, and being at his alma mater. That's awesome. I was certainly excited to see that Miles Capers, the young man that was carted off the field the other night, that to see him return to the sideline late in the game. I'm sure that was awesome, for them as a team to see that happen. But I know just watching from a fan's perspective and, a competitor, man, it was awesome to see that young man return. And, it sounds like there's, really positive news coming out of that. And, looking forward to the opportunity to go compete against these guys.
Mike, you mentioned Diego at quarterback for Vanderbilt. What do you see from him as a passer and a rusher?
ultimate competitor, man. It starts with that. Like, this guy is the ultimate competitor, and he's not just a runner and he's not just a passer. He's really good at both. He's one of those guys that he is a creator too. He will manipulate the defense. You know, he does a lot. He does a great job of extending plays, whether they're designed to be on the move plays or he escapes the pocket because of his mobility. He does a great job of utilizing pump fakes to get a defender off his feet, then turn it into a first down, or then turn it into a throw where they convert a third down that way. So this guy is physical. You know, typically when you talk about quarterbacks, one of the first things that you know, obviously the competitor piece speaks for itself, and I think that the mold and the shape of their football team has taken on, you know, his lead there, and you just see the way they play football, and you know, they're a very physical football team that you know, has done a great job of just playing with a swagger. And I think the other part that is unique here when you talk about the quarterback is you don't typically say, hey, man, he is a physical player. Yeah. But he is a physical player. He will run you over. He'll run around you. And it's when you have a guy that way, and, you know, there's a couple times when he's handed the ball off and you find him down the field. I see him at the end of plays going down to try to get a block on somebody. You don't typically see that. So just the ultimate competitor, man. And, you know, obviously, you know, it's a great opportunity for us this week, but certainly, you know, here's a young man that's continued to just prove over and over again that he is, you know, one of the top quarterbacks in the country right now. And, you know, what he did before he got to Vanderbilt speaks for itself. And it's great to see what he's doing for them.
Hey, Coach Mike New joining us on This Week in Ball State Sports. Coach, appreciate your time as always. Good luck Saturday.
All right, appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to This Week in Ball State Sports, presented by Gainbridge. The preceding has been a Learfield presentation on the Gainbridge Ball State Cardinals Sports Network.